Good evening, I'm Katerina Georgieva. Here's what's making news right now.
It's great that we're doing this for people who require that. It is also, as business owners and residents of that area, we should be more involved in these kind of issues.
It was kind of complicated because of COVID and stuff, like what we're dealing with. Yeah. Because they had to change the break time and everything, like the timestamps, and I don't know, it's just like we have to stay very separated from each other, yeah.
It's not going to be incumbent on the public health unit alone. It's ensuring that the province implements measures such as making sure that bunkhouses are covered on the Occupational Health and Safety Act, that there's paid sick days at the provincial level.
Thanks for joining us. After hours of discussions, it's still not decided if a location will be approved as a new drug consumption and treatment site here in Windsor. It's resulted in many questions from council members and objections from some business owners. The council meeting is ongoing as we speak, and a decision could come down any minute. CBC's Stacey Janzer is live with us tonight now, and she's been watching council since early this afternoon. Stacey, what were the biggest concerns here?
Well, Katerina, there were three businesses all worried about how the consumption and treatment site will affect them, saying there's already a lot of discarded needles around their properties, which are near 628 Goyu Avenue, the proposed site.
It's going to affect the businesses that are currently there, our tenants. And if the tenants leave, it's going to affect us because this is our retirement savings that we have been working very hard towards. We're okay with having this kind of office to help with these people, but we're not okay with having it right beside our building.
After more than an hour of questions, Councillor Fred Francis asked if those businesses that had their concerns out there were met. All in the meeting said no. The downtown BIA supports the plan, but had multiple issues that they want to have looked at, including street enhancements and loitering, asking there be 24/7 security on site. Nicole Dupuy, the CEO of the health unit, says their concerns are issues that will have to be dealt with as part of the provincial application. First, they need council to approve a site before they can come up with a security plan, which would also help minimize groups of people near the site. And there was a lot of delegates in support of the site, many that are part of the advisory committee with the health unit.
Stacey, after all the approvals, what would the site look like?
Well, a lot of those questions went to a supervisor of a consumption treatment site in Guelph, and they've been open for some time and have evolved from an OPS to a CTS. And they offer services, something Windsor's health unit is looking to replicate. So once someone comes in to use, they will be met with a harm reduction worker and a nurse.
Once they've injected, they would move into the post-consumption area. In this area, clients would be greeted by the harm reduction worker, again, someone who is a peer who has lived experience, as well as a nurse. Referrals to on-site partners or off-site services would be made. On-site partners would have predetermined schedules and would be in offices in the CTS. But the services that we'd be looking at, again, would be mental health, addictions, housing, primary care, income support, and anything else that we identify as we begin to operationalize the CTS.
Now, Stacey, if council does approve the site, what would come next?
Well, the health unit needs to complete their application, which goes to the province, and that would give them provincial funding. And then they'll need to get a legal exemption from Health Canada. After those approvals, then the site can go into operation. So this site could open by the end of the year at the earliest. Katerina?
Thanks for this, Stacey. CBC's Stacey Janzer live on this tonight, and we'll keep you all posted on the latest.
Both the Catholic and the public school board say that today ran rather smoothly. Students were back in class.
Sorry for that technical error there. Students have officially returned to in-person learning today after having started the new year online. The province had opted for that to give officials time to make schools a safer place. The government promised that as of today, there would be masks for all and filtration systems would be beefed up. Jacob Barker looks into whether that vow became reality.
Both the Catholic and the public school board say that today ran rather smoothly. Students were back in class and they had enough teachers to cover. The kids that we spoke with say they were happy to be back in class.
It's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like to study in online.
It's better to see people I like in real life.
The provincial government had promised to bring back classes in a safe way. The promised N95 masks have arrived for teachers to wear according to the school boards, but both boards told me they're still waiting on the additional HEPA air filtration units, the public school board saying they are supposed to be coming sometime in January. Students were also promised 2 rapid antigen tests, which are not yet in their hands, but both boards have them in their possessions and are aiming to distribute them to the students later this week. We caught up with some students on their first day to see how they felt.
You guys feel safer being at school?
Not really.
No, because
like
the COVID cases are rising and stuff. Plus online, like you're not near anyone.
I do think I'm gonna finish the school in person, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's like online.
Do you think that you guys are going to finish out your school year in person?
I mean, COVID is like rising again, so I doubt I don't think we are.
Well, one other thing that was an issue today was just getting the students to classes. I spoke with the general manager of the service that runs school buses throughout the region. She told me that because of a shortage of bus drivers, many of them had to take on extra routes to get all the kids to school. She said luckily there wasn't any cancellations today, but there could be in the future. Jacob Barker, CBC News, Windsor.
The Windsor-Essex Health Unit is walking back its order that temporarily suspended the arrival of temporary foreign workers to our region amid the Omicron surge. On Friday, officials rescinded it because upper levels of government stepped in to expand isolation capacity for workers. But one migrant worker group says that still does not address key issues that persist, like congregate living conditions, workers complaining about lack of wellness checks in isolation centers, and the need for more culturally appropriate food. With about 2,000 migrant workers arriving in our region in the next 2 months, the health unit says they can now isolate 300 workers at a time, up from just 115.
We may exceed that. That is certainly a risk, but we did feel that it's around where we probably need to be, and we're working with certainly all of our partners locally to. And if we need to expand, then hopefully we'll be able to do that quickly.
This is another component of this problem where they set up a quarantine system. There's been no discussion with the workers about how to improve these conditions, both on the farms, but also during the quarantine. And it's continued to be a concern, and issues are going to continue to arise until workers are involved in this process to make things better.
A look now at the latest on COVID's impact on the community. Hospitalization rates are climbing to new heights. 123 people are in hospital battling the virus in Windsor-Essex, and we haven't seen numbers this high since the peak of wave 2 this time last year. 21 people are in ICU. 2 more people have died, a man in his 60s and a woman in her 70s. 1,000 new cases have been reported since Friday, but again, with testing so limited these days, that number is well below what's actually happening in the community. Health Canada has approved an antiviral treatment from Pfizer for adults 18 and older infected with COVID-19. Many experts say this potentially life-saving medication could help reduce the current strain on hospitals, but they also stress that it's no replacement to the protection offered by the mRNA vaccine. Travis Danrach reports.
It's being hailed as a game changer, the first COVID treatment approved by Health Canada that can be taken at home. But it's not a quick fix.
For the Omicron wave itself, it may contribute, but it won't be a key contributor to the current waves.
The approval of Pfizer antiviral Paxlovid, intended to treat adults with mild to moderate COVID at risk of serious illness, will eventually make a major difference when it comes to hospitalizations. The problem now is ramping up supply and distribution. Provinces don't have a clear delivery schedule for the months ahead.
Canada has already received the first shipment of more than 30,000 treatment courses of Paxlovid, with another 120,000 on the way in February and March.
My officials and I continue to work with Pfizer in order to finalize the delivery schedule for the remaining treatment courses and to accelerate deliveries of this highly sought-after medication wherever possible.
testing is also a major factor for treatment. The drug needs to be taken within 5 days from the onset of symptoms. With PCR tests limited across the country, Health Canada says rapid antigen tests can, in some circumstances, be used to prescribe the medication.
PCR test might pick up a positive earlier than a rapid antigen test, but if you have a positive rapid antigen test, it's actually very accurate.
Side effects of Paxlovid include muscle pain, vomiting, high blood pressure, and headache. It also can't be taken while on certain medications. Among those on the priority list to get the treatment, the unvaccinated, something Dr. Teresa Tam was pressed on today.
As healthcare providers, you don't pick and choose which patients you have coming into the hospital and getting treated.
Even as the rollout of Paxlovid scales up in the months ahead, the gold standard remains vaccines. Officials say no pill is a substitute for getting the jab before catching COVID-19. Travis Danresch, CBC News, Ottawa.
CBC News has obtained a confidential report that looks at the Ford government's plans for regulating online gambling in the province. The report was prepared for Ontario's biggest casino operator. It predicts that opening up the online gambling market will mean a big hit to casinos and provincial revenue. Our Queen's Park reporter Mike Crawley has this story.
Before the pandemic, casinos brought the provincial government close to $2 billion in revenue every year. Now the Ford government is poised to give online gambling companies the green light to operate from Ontario. What will the impact be on casinos? CBC News obtained a confidential consultant's report prepared for Great Canadian Gaming. The company runs a dozen casinos in the province, including Ontario's most lucrative, Casino Woodbine. The report predicts a steep drop in casino revenues across Ontario and 2,500 jobs lost.
I am deeply concerned about the impact this is going to have on jobs, but overall the impact on our communities and province.
The provincial government is expected to take 20% of the proceeds of registered online gambling companies. Right now, the province gets 55% of the proceeds from casinos. The report argues that so much casino spending will shift online that provincial gambling revenues will drop by more than $500 million a year. Great Canadian Gaming declined CBC's request for an interview. Its online competitors say its report is rubbish.
When the regulated market opens in Ontario, nothing is going to change in respect to players' entertainment habits.
This internet gambling executive says Ontarians are already playing online casinos.
Anybody who continues to walk into real casinos in order to play games there will continue to do so.
Even though companies aren't yet allowed to operate online gambling sites in this province, there's nothing stopping Ontario residents from using sites based elsewhere. Estimates suggest Ontarians already spend as much as $1 billion a year gambling online, and that has casinos wanting a piece of the action.
They're actually anxious to be a part of the online rollout. They're anxious to be able to participate and compete and create an opportunity for their own customers who may be gambling on other people's sites to try and bring them back into their business.
In a statement, Great Canadian's CEO said, while we support iGaming in principle, the Ontario government needs to take the time to get this right. The finance minister declined our request for an interview. His spokesperson said that Ontario's online gambling market is being designed to coexist with land-based casinos and not hurt provincial revenues. Mike Crawley, CBC News, Toronto.
Windsor City Council has approved several measures to help local businesses with cash flow problems due to COVID restrictions. They include waiving fees for sidewalk cafes and parklets and deferring property tax payments.
Anything that we can do to defer payments and defer penalties, accrued penalties, is definitely something that is, welcomed, and I think we're really appreciative to the city for considering something like that. That gives enough time for the federal government to step in, and add the measures that I think are necessary for many businesses in our area who are struggling as a result.
We're in a tougher time for everybody now, and the loans aren't being given out by banks, so it's a lot more difficult for these businesses to survive. So giving them this freedom to get their extended patios, to get those sidewalk encroachment fees waived is huge.
Hoping to have the deadline extended for license fee payments, but council deferred that decision to give administration more time to gather information on that. Now, we also want to tell you that Essex Town Council is currently underway. It's the first since Larry Snively gave up his seat as mayor. The town's deputy mayor will step in temporarily. But in a week's time, a special council meeting will be held where council will either appoint someone to the mayor's seat or call a by-election where residents would vote on his replacement. One person eager to take that spot is Ron Rogers. He was the mayoral runner-up in the last election, losing by just 117 votes. And he's asked council to seriously consider him for the position. And he's also said that should he be appointed, he would not run for mayor in the next municipal election. A live look outside there. We've got a chance of flurries tonight. Temperatures around 0 tomorrow. And Colette is here, and she will have our weather breakdown for the week ahead in just a little bit. A major winter storm has been rolling across a large section of central Canada. Significant snowfalls have hit Ottawa, Montreal, and Toronto. That's remarkable. The snow came down so thick and so fast that even the snow plows had trouble. Some parts of southern Ontario, they were expected to get as much as 60 centimeters, and Colette will give us the latest in a bit. And in Toronto, police had to close two of the city's major roadways, the Don Valley Parkway and the Gardiner Expressway, so that they could clear stranded vehicles. In Ottawa, the city has already broken its record for snowfall on this date. There were 43 centimeters on the ground by early afternoon, nearly doubling a record set 102 years ago. Police say there were numerous crashes and cars in ditches, and a long stretch of the Trans-Canada Highway had to be closed west of the capital. In Montreal, the region is expected to get as much as 35 centimeters of snow. Two major routes through southern Quebec were closed, including one where several people were injured in a crash. Schools and government services, including mail delivery and vaccine clinics, have been suspended across Ontario and Quebec. And Colette, we're going to bring you right in, because it's remarkable to look at those images and think, my goodness, how did we dodge that here in Windsor?
Really dodge it, because it's pretty close by. I mean, we're seeing some of these totals. Now, there was kind of a gradient where the snow totals, pretty rapidly dropped down. But even just over towards London, there were many readings around 15 centimeters. And then just a little further southwest, you wouldn't even know necessarily.
Clear skies.
Yeah, there was a massive system having an impact there. So just to show you some of those numbers that they've seen, that there have been areas over 50 centimeters. And for the Niagara region, for the nation's capital, likely there'll be pockets that are going to see that 60 centimeters or even more when it's all said and done. So just some incredible numbers. It was sort of a range around Toronto and into the GTA. And then, we're just looking at, some stubborn cloud cover, but the temperature just below freezing at -1, -3 Chatham-Kent, and -2 there in Sarnia. We do have the winds, and the winds are associated with this system as well, but that's about all that we're really dealing with. Now, they are driving some lake effect on the shores there of Lake Huron, where there are going to be some squalls in there, so 5 to up to 15 centimeters, but maybe a few flurries. That's about all that's in the forecast here into southwestern Ontario. And so you can see what those winds are. Some of those gusts are up there 40, 50 kilometers an hour, but they're even stronger. So all that snow that's to the east of us, blowing around, where they're looking at winds gusting over 60 kilometers an hour. So really, earlier there were blizzard warnings in place there. Those have been dropped, but it really blizzard-like conditions. And just having a look at the satellite imagery here, just really seeing some of that cloud cover that we've picked up. This is just how broad this system is. It's deepening and pushing into Atlantic Canada, bringing a wintry mix there, extends all the way back, not quite though, into our skies there. So that improves in terms of the snowfall coming down through the overnight hours. It's already been peeling off, but still a few pockets there into, say, Brockville and Ottawa that have been seeing still some of that. We have to hold on to some of this cloud cover. Unfortunately, not saying we want to hold on to it, but that kind of happens. So into tomorrow, I have us with mostly overcast skies, a few flurries possible. We kind of dodge the next one, too. It moves to the north of us. It's not nearly as strong, but I do think later on Wednesday we might see a few little kind of sprinkles or some wet flurries that will push through. The temperatures will be milder, though, and that's why the chances are slimmer, and that we will be seeing more of a liquid form to it than any serious snowfall. Cold air will be coming in. We're not going to dodge that one. Katarina, that's later this week.
All right, cold air we've been getting used to anyways. Thanks for this, Colette.
Yeah, you're welcome.
When we come back, we know that the film industry has really been struggling lately with the pandemic, but it doesn't mean that there aren't really exciting movies on the way. So Eli Glasner is going to break that down for us in just a little bit. The entertainment industry is trying to find its way back after being hobbled by the pandemic for months now. But that hasn't stopped it from making big plans for this year. CBC's Eli Glasner looks at what's coming soon to a big screen near you.
Come see. I'm vengeance. So we're going to start off our look at 2022 with pretty much what you'd expect. Superheroes soaring and sequels galore. Let's start with a reboot, yeah? Another Batman. Bruce Wayne. Sorry. Opening in March, The Batman offers an injection of youth, angst, and adding Zoe Kravitz to the mix certainly doesn't hurt.
You got a lot of cats.
I have a thing about strays. Robert Pattinson is your new vigilante who likes fast cars and eyeshadow. I'm not too thrilled about the Riddler, but I cannot wait to see how the Bat and Cat get along. Now let's keep the romance going with a trip to the Lost City. In March, Sandra Bullock returns to the realm of rom-com with this jungle adventure, co-starring Channing Tatum.
Loretta Sage is missing.
I'm gonna rescue her. I just want her to think of me as more than a cover model.
If you remember The Proposal as fondly as I do, you know no one does reluctant romance as good as Sandy. Oh, and it also features this guy.
Why are you so handsome?
My dad was a weatherman.
Another big trend for 2022 is, well, parallel Earths. But if you want to see this idea taken to the extremes, get ready for Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. That's right, welcome to the Michelle Yeoh-verse.
Across the multiverse, I've seen thousands of Evelyns.
In Canada, the Indigenous sci-fi genre is growing with the success of movies like Blood Quantum and Night Raiders. This summer, the action moves up north for Slashback. Shot in Nunavut, the film finds a group of Inuit teens fighting back against aliens. Cannot wait for that one. Now, there's an avalanche of animated movies coming this year.
Are you hungry for something good?
But the one I can't wait to sample?
Something juicy.
That's right. The Bob's Burgers movie.
Fresh hot burgers, sexy burgers.
Served up to audiences at the end of May, the animated feature finds the Belchers battling a growing sinkhole. Eli Glasner, CBC News, Toronto.
Australia and New Zealand are conducting aerial assessments of the Pacific island of Tonga after Saturday's violent volcanic eruption. Satellite images from that day show the sudden plume of ash, steam, and gas pushing up into the atmosphere. The massive underwater eruption triggered a tsunami that traveled across the Pacific Ocean, and a sonic boom was heard as far away as Alaska. Its shockwave even briefly cleared fog in Seattle, but on Tonga Island itself, the scale of damage remains unclear. Communication lines were damaged, and internet and telephone services are still being restored. Asphalt poses the biggest health concern right now and may have contaminated drinking water. And minutes ago, City Council approved 628 Goyo Street location for the consumption and treatment site that we told you about earlier. It was a split 6-5 vote, and we'll have more information on that situation on our website. Just go to cbc.ca/Windsor. That is it from us. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great night.